All right, today we're looking at a tool that's really starting to change how developers write and, maybe more importantly, how they refactor code. It's called Cursor, and it claims to be way, way more than just another AI assistant. Okay, let's just dive right in with a question for you. Think about the AI coding tools you're using right now, like GitHub Copilot. Are they basically just really, really fast typists? I mean, they're great at finishing a line of code or filling out a function for sure, but do they actually understand the entire system you're building? Well, that's the exact problem Cursor is trying to solve. And this quote pretty much sums up their entire mission. Cursor isn't designed to be a fancy autocomplete. The whole idea is to give you something that feels like an AI pair programmer, an engineer that gets the context of your entire project and it's sitting right there inside your editor. That's a huge shift in thinking. So, what is it exactly? Well, Cursor is a full-on standalone code editor. It's actually a fork of VS Code, so when you open it up, it's going to feel super familiar. But the key difference, it's been built from the ground up to let an AI understand, change, and evolve entire code bases, not just that one single file you have open. So, let's get into our first section here, the big idea, and how this whole thing actually works. I mean, the real question is, how does a tool like this think at the level of a whole repository? Well, the magic is really in its execution flow. It all happens in 4 key steps. First, as soon as you open a project, it scans and indexes everything. All the files, all the symbols, the dependencies, the whole shebang. Then, when you give it a prompt, it mashes your request together with all that relevant context it just gathered. Third, and this is the cool part, it generates code across multiple files at the same time. And finally, and this is absolutely crucial, you are always in control. It shows you a diff of every single proposed change and you get the final say. You can approve it or you can reject it. That whole process brings us to our second section, which is all about this key difference between code and a code base. This distinction is so, so important. See, most AI tools you've probably used operate on individual little pieces of code. Cursor, on the other hand, is built to work on the entire code base as a whole. Now, what's really interesting here is how clearly this shows the gap in capabilities. I mean, for simple inline autocomplete, sure, Copilot and Tab9 are fantastic, no question. But when you start looking at things like repo-wide reasoning and multi-file refactoring, well, Cursor is pretty much in a class of its own. Those other tools just weren't built for that kind of high-level, system-wide task. So right about now, you might be thinking, okay, but why not just use ChatGPT for this? Well, it turns out they're for totally different jobs. ChatGPT is amazing for high-level brainstorming, kicking around architectural ideas, and designing a system from a bird's-eye view. Cursor is for taking those brilliant designs and actually implementing them deep inside your codebase. So the really important thing to get is that you don't have to choose between them. For a senior developer, a workflow might actually start with a design chat in ChatGPT, and then you jump over to Cursor to make that vision a reality across dozens of files. They really do work together perfectly. Okay, theory is great, but let's get into section 3, proof in action. Let's see what this actually looks like and walk through a really high-impact, large-scale refactor, the kind of job that would be an absolute nightmare to do by hand. So here's our starting point, a scenario that I'm sure many, many developers will recognize. It's a Spring Boot monolith that's just kind of grown over time. The logic is all tangled up, the services are way too tightly coupled, and making any little change feels risky and takes forever. To get specific, we've got the same validation logic, just copied and pasted across multiple different services. This tight coupling makes the whole thing super brittle, and the methods themselves are almost impossible to write good unit tests for. It's just classic technical debt. Now, look at the prompt we give Cursor. We're not telling it which specific lines to change. We're giving it high-level architectural intent. We're describing the goal, just like you would to a junior engineer on your team. We're saying, make this better by doing this. And boom, this just brilliantly shows the result. In literally minutes, Cursor goes in, identifies all that duplicate code, creates a brand new validation service, rewrites all the other services to use it, updates the tests and their mocks, and then it just presents you with a clean diff to approve. A task that could have taken days of painful work is done in a tiny fraction of the time. So how can you actually get these kinds of results? Well, that brings us to section 4, adopting the architect's mindset. This is all about who this tool is for, why it matters, and how to use it the right way. And it all starts with changing how you think, from being just a writer of code to an architect of systems. The results you get are 100% tied to the quality of your prompt. A super vague prompt like "fix this" is going to get you vague, unreliable results. But a good prompt, one that describes your architectural intent, like "refactor this service to follow solid principles," that gives the AI crystal clear direction to execute a really complex and valuable task. So, who is this really for? Well, it gives the most leverage to senior developers and architects. If you're the person who owns a big old legacy codebase, or your team is about to start a huge modernization project, this tool can be a massive force multiplier for you. But hey, it's not for everybody. Because it has to send code to cloud models to do its reasoning, it's probably not a good fit for highly regulated environments or places with super strict IP rules. And maybe most importantly, for junior developers who are still learning the fundamentals, relying too heavily on a tool like this could actually become a crutch that slows down their growth. And now for our final section, the takeaway, where we zoom out and look at the bigger picture. Because the rise of tools like Cursor isn't just about getting more done. It's pointing to a really fundamental shift in the whole role of a senior engineer. Before, a senior engineer's time was so often just eaten up by the mechanical work of manually refactoring and constantly switching context. Now, with a tool like this, they can delegate all those mechanical tasks to the AI. This frees them up to focus on what actually matters: high-level system design and architectural strategy. They become the directors, not just the typists. And this is really the ultimate takeaway. This tool is an amplifier. It doesn't replace the need for deep technical knowledge. It actually rewards it. Your value is no longer just about how fast you can type code, but about how well you can think, reason, and direct at the system level. So if you remember just one thing from all of this, let it be this. Cursor isn't about writing code faster. It's about being able to think about your code base on a bigger scale and evolve it much, much faster. Which kind of leaves us with one final big question. If all the tedious mechanical work of refactoring is handled by AI, what new, ambitious, and valuable systems will that free you up to go design and build?